Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Nikon Live stage. My name is Mike Corrado, your host throughout this great show in Dallas, Texas called Imaging USA. How's everybody doing here? If you're tuning in, thank you for tuning in. You guys are in for a real treat. We've had education so far all through the morning and started the show. If you haven't seen some of the programming so far or any of the program that you may miss to come, we're going to have this up on our Nikon site. Just go to the Nikon Live page, and you can watch it as many times as you want. We're having fun here in Texas so far. Hope everybody's having a good time. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to keep the education, inspiration, and craziness going with the next speaker, Mr. Jerry Ghionis. Jerry, why don't you work your way up? And Jerry and I have known each other now, I would think, close to decades, right? We're getting there. And he hates my Australian accent because it's not that good. Bobby. We have arguments about how you say Nikon, which is, who knows Paul Simon's song, I've got a what camera? I've got a Nikon camera. I like to take a photo. It does not. I got a Nikon camera. Anyway, so this is one of the most celebrated, amazing professionals, human beings that I have ever met. We share so many different loves. He has been a great friend. His wife, Melissa, and I, we've had some great conversations. He's also a great presenter. But Jerry is probably one of the most noted portrait commercial wedding photographers out there. He does so many different things. He's going to talk to you today about turning any location into a studio. And I always have to say this. We worked on D850. We worked on Z8. We worked on Z9. We've done so many projects together that he's helped us launch. He's got such a diverse amount of products that he has on his own, from lighting gears and Ice Light and societies like Ice Society. I just don't know how he keeps up with it all, probably because of his partner, Melissa. But he is definitely one of those people that I have learned from, the intricate ways of posing, the little subtleties of fingers and hands and where they're placed, and it's just been a great treat and an amazing ride. He is definitely, I would call, family now, not just a friend. He's a brother. We share a love of hockey together, and we're always talking about hockey. Just know that the New York Islanders beat the Las Vegas Knights 4-0 in the last game, so I better be careful because they're playing next week. Ladies and gentlemen, from Las Vegas, Nevada, Nikon Ambassador Jerry Ghionis.
Thank you so much, mate. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. How you guys feeling, all right? All right, great to be back in Dallas. I've been here many times. I love you guys, and this is the best dressed attendee in the history of the world. John, what is going on with that, man? You look incredible. For those of you at home watching, you are not privy to this man's bling on his jacket, on his shoes. But anyway, guys, what we're here to discuss is turning any location into a studio. Now, what does that even mean? Well, who here perhaps suffers from the fact that they don't have a studio? Like, you don't have a studio, okay? Or you have a studio and it's really small. Or perhaps you have a part-time gig, or you have another profession and you want to get into photography and you don't know where to photograph. So we struggle with that all the time. I think most of us, what we do is we look for a location and think that is what's going to mean a great photograph. What I want to do and show to you today and prove to you that a simple domestic home can actually be an absolute gold mine for opportunities. You just have to find them. See, I believe that you photograph the way you are as a person. If you're not a nice-spirited person, guess what? You're going to walk into a room and see all the shabbiness and not really know where to photograph. If you have a bright disposition and see things positively and have fun and see the joy and the beauty in life, you're going to see those pockets of light and areas where you can photograph. So with limited gear, with a limited location, I challenge myself that I'm just going to spend a day photographing at a new place that I'm in Vegas. So you're going to see my home, and we're going to walk into my lounge room, we're going to walk into different areas, but I'm going to show you what we did in my house. So let's go through it all. Okay, very good. By the way, if you want to learn more about me, learn more from me, see my work, Jerry, okay? JerryJerryJerry.com. Very easy to remember. If you remember the Brady Bunch, Marsha, you know that, right? Okay, let's go through it. So this is the entrance to my house. You've got basically this doorway here, and I'm thinking, well, light's hitting the back of me. If I turn around this particular location, I could get a nice particular spot. So I've got the light filtering down. I've got a nice pose here as well. Now, you remember the S-curve. We've all heard about S-curve. You know, if a female stands in front of you like this with shoulder length apart to their shoulders, we're not getting any curves because that's what's beautiful about a woman. We turn on a bit of an angle, we point the toe towards the camera, slide the heel back whilst keeping the toe pointed, bend the knee, the weight's on my back leg, shoulders back, lean forward, arch the back. Now I'm going to get all those curves. Because this is somewhat of a silhouette, I mean, with a bit of detail, the air between the body parts is really, really important. So we've got a decent shot here. It's not incredible, it's decent. Nice little shadow there as well. And then I tried a bit of a different pose. Then I tried something a little bit different here. So as I was adjusting, I thought, wait a second, if I open up the glass doors on the particular door, the glass panels, pardon me, then would that not create a better shadow for me to photograph? Now, wouldn't you say that now this is a lot more interesting? Now, you might say, Jerry, I don't have a doorway like that. Well, go to Home Depot and just buy something. Go to eBay and you'll find these doorways that can create beautiful textures. I mean, get a piece of cardboard and just slash it. Have some fun. Now, what I want you to do, look closely, is look at her face. Do you see the difference between the light on her face here and the light on her face there? What was the difference? The light actually hit her shoulder and acted as a reflector back on her face. I can't sell you that piece of arm that exists in the model, so just be careful of that. So there we go, before and afters. Then I'm like, wait a second, I've got a couple here. Let me get him involved. So I placed him in the doorway. And I thought, rather than doing predictably the same that I basically did with Rainy's her name, and Wyatt, I placed Wyatt over here, and then I got that light deliberately reflecting off her arm as a beautiful reflector, gorgeous curves, and then it just looks visually dynamic. So if you're photographing for an album or a portrait or a wedding, if you're photographing with the intent to sell, what I want you to do is, if you're photographing a couple, in this case a hetero couple, take that person first. Before they leave, put someone else in, then you can get them out, and then you sort of keep on going. It's more efficient. So by the way, in case you've just joined us, what we're doing is we're talking about how to actually turn any location into a studio. Now, as far as the studio is concerned, you walk in, it's a blank canvas sort of thing. There's a black room, you've got a light that you can put here and a light that you can put there, and we call it controlled lighting. You have to think about it that when you walk into a home, a studio, environment, location, it's going to have existing lights. You just have to look at the difference. Well, this is my hair light. That is a fill light. That's my main light, and adjust accordingly. Think of it, you're just forced to use what you have. Yes, you can manipulate it, but don't be overwhelmed by it. Now, as a Nikon ambassador, I could say to myself, you know what? I'm just going to show you the best photographs that I've taken in the history of my career, and it would be fun, and it would be great, pat in the back, but you just wouldn't learn anything. You can Google that stuff. I like to get bite-sized information and things that we can use on your next shoot. So let's play. Let's keep on going. So now we have the couple over here. It's really important. Do you see how she's shifting her butt? Now we've got a beautiful curve. We've got air between their bodies. And even there's a slimming, narrowing point with the guy. Most of us with men, when we turn the guys, let's say to a girl, if we're photographing a heterosexual couple, a lot of the time the guy's leg is straight. So he could be holding, kissing, but if this is not bent, this for me is like energy or an arrow shifting to the woman that I love. Does that make sense? And it looks more intimate. Then I can just crop a little bit differently, because if I was actually shooting for an album, I would want to do that. Now this is using no other supplementary lighting. The lighting is bouncing off his cheek and then going back on hers. More importantly, in this way. So I can crop his identity out, and this is just photographing outside my front yard. But that sort of gives you an idea of from where we started and then where we got to. So let's give Rainy a break, the female model, and then now let's play with Wyatt. Well, give him something to do. I think a lot of women, we might know what to do. There's a bit more stuff. Play with the hair, play with the earring, hands on the hips, hands on the dress. But with guys, think of every Bond movie that you've ever seen. When James Bond has a fight and he gets himself fixed up, what does he do? He's like this, he's like this, he's like this. There's all these cool things that you can do. So a lot of these things have already been shown to us before. I like the fact that the lighting is a little bit harsher, a little bit more masculine, a little bit more gritty, and even just changing with negative space here can make all the difference as well. So I love that. And I thought to myself, wait a second, before I even moved to this location, so don't forget, all these shots were taken at the doorway of my house. So I thought, well, wait a second, if we get Rainey behind the actual doorway, then that might be cool. So we're actually celebrating Wyatt, and then you sort of discover Rainey in all the chaos. And then we keep on going. And then I'm like, later on in the day, a piece of sunlight came through the house and it created a different environment as well. So what I was doing, I was walking past the house in the living room, and then I got blinded by the sun, and then I looked at myself, and then the shade was just here. I thought, great, let me expose for her face. And what do I mean by that? I mean, I want detail in the brightest highlight on her face. And then it goes shadow. Notice how important that little triangular piece of air is, and the silhouette of her bust to actually give her shape. At the start of my career, I would have just placed her anywhere, and perhaps her bust would have been hidden in the doorway or something like that. We can change a couple of the posing around a little bit, have some fun with that. Looking up for some beautiful catch lights. And then this one, again, you would swear that was done in a studio. That was using broad lighting. What does broad lighting mean? Broad lighting means that the sun hits his face. We're shooting him on the light side of the face. And then I've got the shadow just tickling the fringe of his face. And then going a little bit closer, like that little brow pressure sort of peering off to the side there as well. Remember, if you're photographing and or for producing a wedding album or a portrait album, you just need 2 shots to actually be a spread of the wedding album. Would you agree? So what I'm doing here is I just take that shot, I change my angle, and I'm an aggressive cropper. Aggressive cropper. For those of you who don't understand my English accent, my Australian accent, I'm an aggressive cropper. You probably understand what that means now, right? Thank you, Roy. I appreciate that. So do you notice how I got the Rembrandt lighting? I crop really into him, and then I allow for a bit of breathing space as it blends into black. But you would swear, again, that was done at the studio. Over here, again, I'm thinking, well, let's use both of them. Imagine this as a spread in an album where you've got the spine in the middle, pocket of light on him, pocket of light on her, and we're making that environment look incredibly different than what it was as well. You guys enjoying what you're hearing so far? Yeah? Okay, so I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. I'll keep on going, only if on the count of 3, you clap, cheer, and freak out. Okay, especially you, all right? So on the count of 3, you clap, cheer, and freak out, and then what's going to happen? Everyone's going to freak out, think, what's going on there over the Nikon stage? Something must be good happening, and something is good happening, and I'll keep on teaching. You ready? I'm joking. Okay, I like to have fun. I'm sorry. All right, let's go into the corner of a room here. So all I'm using is the light coming over here. Okay, do not look at this person right now. This is a performer. This is not what the lesson's about. We're going to use this particular light coming from here. Now, what I get beautiful pieces of sunlight coming through these Venetians, and I expose for it. What am I saying? I want detail in the brightest highlight of where that light hits her skin. Many of us would do the opposite, would try to expose for the shadow, and it would look terrible. But that was in that location. That same light source was in a different window, and I got Rainey to lie down. And what I love about this image is that we got the curves of the shade to emulate the shape of her curves on her neck. And there's harmony and repetition. Now, did I deliberately go out and do that and know that that was happening? Hell no. I had no idea that that would happen. But I lay her down, put her chin up and did this, and then I maneuvered her, and I just saw this beautiful curve appear in the shape of her face. Now, when you're doing slivers of light in the face, especially on a woman, I want you to what to be in light. I call the sexy bits. What do I mean by that? The eyes and the lips. Never put a shadow on a woman right here, because it looks like a mustache. A shadow mustache. You don't want that. It's going to look weird. Catch lights in the eyes, really, really beautiful. That works well too. Now, that sunlight coming through those Venetians, we still get beautiful light coming through like that. Now, how big are those little slivers of light? It really depends on what you want. Simply look at your couple and just adjust and have some fun. I challenge you guys watching at home and you guys here in the room, don't be intimidated by this. Go get your neighbor, a friend, a cousin, and just photograph in your house. I don't care if it's tiny. There's going to be a pocket of light. There's going to be a beautiful doorway. there's going to be something that you can use. Trust me, and we're going to keep on showing you some stuff. Okay, so now we've got white in that particular shot. And again, I've made it a bit more moody, more dramatic. I don't normally put shadows underneath the eyes, especially on a woman. I don't really like it. On a woman, on a guy, I think it can be a little bit dirtier and grittier, where I include those shadows underneath the eyes. So the negative space now, what camera system do I use? Well, I usually am using a Nikon Z8 and a Nikon Z6 III. Z6 III for filmmaking and Z8. My favorite lenses are the 85mm f1.2. A lot of these were shot with the 105 macro. And there's so many other ones that I love, but that gives you sort of an idea of the ones that I've been using so far in this particular tutorial. So obviously auto area AF is easy. I can just pop on the actual eye focus, and then I can have some fun, make her laugh, and so on. Now, although this looks very simple, there's a lot of nuances to this. So the window light is just here. Most of us, when we're photographing, if we see a softbox or a window, we traditionally will always want to turn our subject matter right over here towards the light source. For a woman especially, I believe the opposite. Not quite the opposite. Start from facing the light, turn the body until we see a shadow on the cleavage in the middle of a dress, and then turn the face back into the light. What happens? Well, we basically get the shadow in the middle of the cleavage, makes the bust look fuller and firmer, more shapely. We see a shadow in the middle, and then we turn her face, and now we shoot on the shadow side of the face, and then we get beautiful catch lights in the eyes as well. So that's sort of like a foundation pose that I do for most women in most environments. So while I'm there, let's just change it up a little bit. So she's just resting right on that wall. Remember, turn the body away from the light, face back in. He turns his face, and I'm shooting him split broad. Broad lighting, light on one side, and then not on the other. Then I can just simply change my angle and I get a different approach altogether. So I think many of us would agree when we photograph, we freak out, and we don't tend to slow down. We go too quick, thinking that the clients or subject matter needs us to be really, really quick. Would you agree? So then that energy maintains for the whole day. I'm telling you, when I photograph, I am very, very slow. I take my time. They mirror my energy rather than they freak out. Ironically, wouldn't you agree that most people say, I want to look natural? Have you ever had that? Does someone ever come up to you and say, I want to look natural? I want to look, like, I go, you want to look natural? You just spent 2 hours doing hair and makeup to look natural? You just bought this beautiful dress just to look natural? I get it. We want to look the best version of ourselves, but it's an anomaly. Just know people appreciate flattery and purpose, okay? So now that I've photographed both of them, give her a break and then come back to Wyatt. This is using nothing but window light. By the way, I'm a huge fan of the black and white picture control in the Nikon camera system. Yes, you're photographing raw, you can do anything you want afterwards, but if you want what you see, like something really beautiful in camera, and you can show your clients the way it feels, the black and white picture control is amazing. Now, negative space behind a subject represents mystery. This is not a mistake. People will tell you it's a mistake. It depends on what your purpose is. Mystery, I don't know where he's looking. It's a negative space, a bit more dramatic. And then if you want harmony, you have negative space in front. I want you to see something here too. Whenever you photograph a profile, your tendency for the subject would be to actually stand and look where your face is pointing. Therefore, you as a photographer are only going to get the whites, the sclera of the eye. So you tell your model, you're going to look weird. So if this was my camera, like this was where I'm looking as a model, and the camera's this way, rather than my eyes be here, they're like this, right? Oh, well, sorry, this. So from this angle. Basically, so I can see that contrast of the iris, and it works really, really well. Cropping closer can make all the difference. Cropping closer still. So you sort of see how I can play with that environment and get variety very, very quickly. So by the way, I'm like, wait a second, I have another idea at that doorway. That piece of glass, when I opened it, it's a textured piece of glass. So if I had my model behind it, I can actually photograph and give that really beautiful painterly effect. You probably have a bathroom window like this, almost 100%. And if you don't, go to Home Depot and get those pieces of film and have some fun with it. Eyes up, cropping in a bit closer. Then I said to myself, wouldn't it be cool to have like a movie poster, like Baby Reindeer vibes? You know what I'm talking about? A little bit. If you've seen it, you know it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, forget it. But so he was with me, she was behind the glass, and I was photographing his reflection and her through the glass. So you get like an in-camera montage, make sense? So if you force yourself to create some really cool stuff where you live, your house, your friends, your neighbor's house, you will, because you're forced to. We just think that we have to have a impeccable studio, but ultimately, you haven't even seen a location yet, have you? It's been a blank wall, a blank space, barely a fence, you know? All right, so he walked outside. Now, I live in Vegas and it's very, very sunny. What do? Well, if I get him to stand up like that, I'm going to get deep shadows underneath his eyes. I don't care about shallow shadows underneath his eyes, but how do I do that? Well, I either get a ladder or I get him to squat down, and then I get this shot. Why is that so shallow? 85mm f1.2, right on the eye that's close to the camera. Change my camera angle, and we get that shot as well. Can't forget about rainy. So remember, it's always like I'm photographing one, putting one in the other, and then this is just the front yard. I'm sure this looks probably similar to what your house does. There's a pocket of light on that textured, weatherboard, whatever, and all of a sudden we get that beautiful quality of light. What I love about this image is her shadow cuts into her face, and it gives it contrast between the face and the skin tone of that background. So these aren't flukes. These are just the progressive things that you do creatively that can work. Then I'm like, well, wait a second. I want to photograph indoors, as in I want to photograph from the sun into the front door, because I haven't done that yet. But you can see how clean that light is. It's all very soft and very flattering. If you don't have a studio, look for the time of day in the sun, open up your front door, have a little bit of fun, and then all of a sudden you've got this flat lighting. It's very flattering. Then I close the doors to remove a bit of the distraction, and again, flat lighting. If you've got someone with weathered skin, maybe pimpled skin or anything like that, this could be a really good approach. You notice also that all her weight's on her back leg. She's bent the front knee, and then he's bent that leg as well. Now, remember too, so this is a bit of a tutorial that I'm doing here. Remember that, let's call this an unashamed pose. If I'm doing a real wedding, a real engagement shoot, a real portrait, I would do this, then I deconstruct the pose, then I have fun, then I break it. Does that make sense? So you've got that classic traditional one, but then all of a sudden they animate and they have fun, then it becomes more organic. But the people say, I want organic photography, I say that in inverted commas, because I don't really believe that's true for most people. Like, you need somewhere to start. Are you just standing in bad light? Are you sitting on the couch watching Netflix? Is that what natural is? So we need to know, give them a foundation so we craft something, and if they want something organic, then break it, you know? A simple different crop can make all the difference. To remind you of those locations, and again, looking at this particular shot, see those little highlights out of focus? That's the thing, is if you get yourself an f1.2 lens, namely I'm talking about the 85, it can make any location or environment, even lighting for that matter that's not so desirable, look really beautiful because it meshes everything in. Okay, so now there's a Chesterfield area, so then I'm thinking I want to do some shots, some luxurious shots of rainy. So I'm on a ladder and I'm shooting down, and all I do is I turn her body, again, away from the light source and her face back in, not dissimilar to what she was doing standing up. So I'm shooting on the shadow side. I've created the shadow side. Shadow on the cleavage, middle of the body, gorgeous catch lights in the eyes. And I'm like, before I move her, how cool would it be to actually get Y involved? And I get this shot. See, for me, posing, what's the quickest lesson I can give you in posing? When two faces or bodies or body parts fit together like a glove, that's good posing. It's like a jigsaw piece that can only fit in one area. With posing, one jigsaw piece can fit into many. So the bridge of his nose with her jaw, if it fits, it's aesthetically pleasing. Don't question it. It looks good. So isn't it crazy how we got that from that? Then I'm like, wait a second, let me press the pause button, let me stand back a little bit, and you see something different. So this was just changing my angle. She was already there. At the beginning of my career, I would have been one-dimensional. I would have set her up, photographed her once, and maybe barely did that, let alone with him and this one as well. So this is a really interesting point to make. I really love this environment because we all have it. 100%, your apartment, your house, your condo, whatever it may be, you've got two windows like this. Would you agree? We've all got windows like this. What am I saying? You've got a softbox that already exists and a softbox from behind. Okay, so what can we do with that? Well, look, you would swear that was done in a studio. You've got your main light here, turn the body away from the light source, face back in, cheekbone, jawline, bust shadow, all looking gorgeous. Then we've got that tickle of light that goes on her jawline that many of us spend a long time in the studio to create. The fact is it already exists in your environment. That also tells you that if you do have a studio, rather than always put your softbox on an angle and 45 degree up high, just put it flat 90 degrees down. Why don't you actually put your softbox flat this way? Does that make sense? It actually teaches you lighting because you wouldn't have done that in the first place. So there it is, cropping a bit closer. So then I'm actually photographing Wyatt on his own, so I change it up a little bit. I turn his face away from the main light and get that kick of light right behind. Then I change my picture control to black and white because I love it. Introduce his hand for a bit of a difference. And the shot that I really enjoyed in this particular scene was this. See, if you have one direction of light, two people interacting, one person will suffer. Let me explain. The sun comes this way, and let's say I was one of the couple, my face is good, got nice light, but then the other one is doing this and interacting, they're not going to have good light. That tells me that if you want two people interacting, you'll need two qualities or directions of light to get them both lit beautifully. So what I ended up doing is thinking of an embrace or a pose that gets them perfectly where I want them to be. And that shot on the right-hand side there, that is actually the EVF footage. So this is out of camera, nothing's been done to it. But you can see how those two lights, that corner of that house, has given me all these results. And I love this one too. There's no magic tricks here, guys. It's just practice. Now, fair enough, it comes easy to someone who's been doing it for over 30 years, but you've got to start. You've got to start. You've got to play. Challenge yourself. If you're only ever doing what's easy, that's silly. It's like, do you teach a man patience by giving him something easy to do? Do you teach someone strength by giving them something easy to do? No. So now this is Rainy, the same model. This is on a different day. I just thought I'd keep with the theme of the models. So this is backlit with sun. Now many of us here would grab a strobe. Would you agree? You grab a strobe and you go bang. Okay, well, for those of you who don't know, I've invented two products. One is the ice light. The ice light, that's any light that you see that looks like a lightsaber in any company in this room, that's my invention. So just know they ripped me off, all right? I'm not bitter. Something's coming, that's all I'll say. The second one is what they call the Omega reflector, the world's first 15-in-1 reflector. So you know what a 5-in-1 is, right? Imagine you put a hole in it, and now the hole in the donut are mini reflectors, but now you take the hole out of the donut out, you shoot through the reflector. Look at what this is the behind the scenes, no retouching. So light, the sun hits the back of her, hits the reflector, goes back on her face. I shoot through the hole. I've screen grabbed my raw file to show you that I'm not lying here. So that's what you basically see. You can do this with a speed light, a strobe, the sun. And what do you get? You would get the easiest, quickest, most efficient way of producing beauty lighting on the planet. And I say that not as a salesman, just as a fact. I get these kinds of shots all the time, very quickly, with one reflector. The only place in the world that you can buy it, because I sell it personally, omegareflector.com. So if you're excited about that, omegareflector.com. Okay, I'm going to finish off with something really cool. I'm very excited about this one because I was doing this tutorial the whole day and I wanted to do a night shot, but I wasn't going to bring my eye slider. I wasn't going to bring out another light source. That would have been too easy. So I walked outside and I saw the solar powered lights that I bought from Costco. I'm like, okay, so let me take 2 solar powered lights. You see how this sort of the pool mirrors the shape of her body, which I thought was really fun. I've got 2 solar powered lights here, one there, one there. Then I thought to myself, let me do a multiple exposure. So I actually do it 3 shots in total, light overlay mode. And the cool thing is that when you take that first photograph on the Nikon camera system, it'll have a ghosting effect. More importantly, that when she's there, no ambient light can really touch her. Because what I'm doing is, she's staying in the exact same position, and we're going bang, bang, bang. 3 shots with light. Because when you think of multiple exposures, what you do is you think about something fantastical, like a montage or something, but you can do it with light. So watch this. This is the first shot. This is the second shot. You can see the ghosting effect a little bit there. This is the third shot in camera with a solar powered light positioned 3 ways with a Nikon Z8. We get that one, which you swear was done with 3 lights. If you enjoyed this presentation, let's make some noise, guys. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Ghionis. Thank you, Jerry.